Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. And I want to give a special thank you to BillBonJovi. Yes. Remember when I did the review for Pieces, which is uploaded maybe a week ago or so. I mentioned how he had sent me that DVD and I had already had it. I let him know I'm really sorry. You sent a DVD for me. I already have it. He said, no problem. So he sent me another one, a different movie. This is actually on my Amazon wish list. Uh, Mainly because I'm trying to collect as many of these Stream Factory stuff as possible. I mean, there's like Day of the Dead, Collector's Edition, like all the ones that are coming out. TerrorVision, The Video Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Comet, The Horror Show. Um, just as many as I can on my Amazon wish list. And he saw this on there and got this for me. So I just wanted to give a special thank you to BillBonJovi. I mean, it's thanks to you guys. Have been very kind for doing stuff like this. He didn't have to do that. That wasn't my intention. It's just, okay. And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. It's like, no, it's no problem. So the least I can do is review it for him because he had never seen this film. And I'm not sure if he'll like the film, but it's, of course, Terror Train. This is the Blu-ray DVD combo pack collector's edition from Scream Factory, which I like this cover. All Aboard If You Dare, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, released in 1980. I think this was filmed back-to-back with Prom Night, both filmed in Canada. Of course, like a lot of Scream Factory stuff. You have this, of course, slipcase. And on both sides, you have different covers. You have this cover, which I think is a good cover. Then you have the original, The Boys and Girls of Sigma Pi. Some will live, and some will die. It's a really cool cover as well from back in the day. Terror Train. Now, the film was directed by Roger Spottiswoode. It's one of his earlier films. If that name does sound familiar, Roger Spottiswoode will also go on to direct. See, he did The Best of Times, I believe, with Kurt Russell and Robin Williams. He did Air America with Mel Gibson. Stop Where My Mind Will Shoot with Sylvester Stallone. The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond film. And the film stars Ben Johnson, as well as Jamie Lee Curtis. Ben Johnson is an old school actor, and a lot of times they would pair. I kind of noticed this with the Jamie Lee Curtis early films. They kind of pair her up with a older, well-known actor. For instance, Prom Night, you had Leslie Nielsen. Halloween, of course, before that you had Donald Pleasance, and here you have Ben Johnson. And even Road Games, you had Stacy Keach. But Road Games is sort of a different animal, though. And Prom Night, I have Prom Night, but it's one of those. Of course, it's one of those DVDs that at times is so damn dark you don't know what's going on. I know they're doing a Prom Night. I think Synapse or someone, which that'd be interesting. But Terror Train, I enjoy this film, but not a lot of people do. And I can understand it, but I enjoy Terror Train because it's not a blood and guts movie. You don't see a lot of gore. It's definitely no Friday the 13th. It's trying to be more on suspense than gore. So if you're looking for gore, you're going to be extremely disappointed. The problems I would have, it's a little bit slow. And really that's it. It's just a little bit slow. And you're not going to see... It's like Halloween. It's supposed to be more suspense than blood and guts. But I know, before I get to the movie, real quickly about the features. The features are not much, but I know Scream Factory did the best that they could. Because Jamie Lee Curtis, I guess, she wouldn't talk about the film. But at the same time, The Fog, if you remember, I did a review of the Fog Collector's Edition. They asked her about the films. It seemed like she talked better about Terror Train than The Fog. So I'm like, why couldn't she do a little interview on The Fog? I don't know. The director, they wanted him to do a commentary. He was ready to do it, and then he said no because he was so ashamed of the film. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'll flat out admit here, I like this film more than Stop Where My Mind Will Shoot. I like this film more than The Best of Times. I like this film more than fucking Air America. I'd probably say I like this film more than The Sixth Day. Sixth Day I liked okay, but I like this film more. I mean, my favorite may still be Tomorrow Never Dies, but I like this film. And it's because I was going to get into the features before that. They try. I mean, so the director didn't want to say anything because he's ashamed of it. Which I'm sorry. There are other films you can be ashamed of, not this film. They try the best they could. I mean, they have an interview with the production executive Don Carmody. You have the producer Daniel Grodnick, production designer Glenn Bidwell, and composer John Mills Cockle. So they got a couple interviews. They did the best they could. You have a trailer. You have a TV spot. It's a DVD and Blu-ray combo. So they did the best that they could. But of all the collector's edition, this is definitely one of the lesser ones because definitely one of the least in-depth ones. But they did the best they could. I mean, some would say it's better than nothing. I mean, I'm surprised Terror Train got something. And it's one of those things that who else are they going to ask? David Copperfield, I guess he didn't want to talk about it, or maybe he was busy. The director doesn't want to talk about it. Jamie Lee Curtis, she only talked about it. She seemed like she said better things about this than The Fog. I mean, who else are they going to ask? So it's one of those things that they tried, and you can only do so much. It's not like you can do a Sean Clark, Horace Hallowed Grounds because it was all on a train. So so it is what it is. I know that this was thought up as it was a dream. They go, oh, Halloween on a train. Halloween was successful. How about Halloween on a train? Okay. So they got this older actor, Ben Johnson. Now, Ben Johnson, he's been in quite a few stuff. I know he was in a supporting role in the Red Dawn original. He starred in The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which I don't have that one. I saw that one a long time ago. A long, long time ago. I think that's another one Scream Factory came out with. He was in The Wild Bunch. He was in The Last Picture Show, which he won an Oscar. He was in a lot of films. Just going through some of them. He was in Let's Get Harry, Cherry 2000. He was in Radio Flyer. He was in The Shadow Riders, Tex, Ruckus, The Hunter, The Swarm, The Sackets, The Getaway from back in 1972, Major Dundee 1965, the original Mighty Joe Young. So he's been definitely an old school actor. And of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, around this time, The Fog, Prom Night, Terror Train, Halloween 2, those are all around the same time. Because I know Jamie Lee Curtis, after Halloween, she wasn't really getting the phone calls as people would think, because I think she did like TV spots for, I think, a Charlie's Angel episode, and I think a Love Boat episode with her mom, Janet Leigh. I could be wrong. I think that's it. And then, okay, The Fog, Halloween 2, Prom Night, Terror Train, Road Games, so all that very quickly in a row. Now, I know it's 8 minutes in, but what I liked about this film, first and foremost, number one, it seems superficial, but I like the fact it's a slasher film on a train. As weird as that, stupid as that sounds, it made it a bit different. It wasn't just another campus. It wasn't just another house. It was on a train. It was on a moving train. It just made it a little bit different, and the environment was different. It's kind of like why, it's not the only reason, but why Intruder. It was in a grocery store. It just made little differences, just make it a little bit more interesting than 5 other films that are just another college campus. So I know they tried to remake this. There was a movie that came out called Train, but at first that was going to be a remake to this, but then they changed their mind, so it became more like Hostel on a Train, where it dealt with people and killing people because they want their organs and shit like that. And like the beginning of the film is just them skinning a person and good makeup effects, but Train I didn't really care for. I prefer this film more. That has a lot more gore, but this, again, I like the train aspect. I like Jamie Lee Curtis. I've I enjoy her in these films. Prom Night, I have to give a watch again. But I remember Prom Night being sort of my least favorite of all those Jamie Lee Curtis ones. Because I remember thinking in Prom Night, well, a couple things like, where the fuck did Leslie Nielsen go? Because in the third act, he like disappears, and isn't he like the father or uncle or whatever of Jamie Lee Curtis? And then you find out who the killer is. I'm like, where's Leslie Nielsen? He should be here. Why did he disappear into thin air? And the inciting incident, so to speak, in the beginning wasn't really the most interesting. The killer was just all in black, so it wasn't really the most interesting costume. And I don't know, just Prom Night is one probably have to give another look. I have to give another look on it. Uh, Pretty much before, let me just go into the film. It starts off, I like the way it starts off, the inciting incident, so to speak, where Jamie Lee Curtis and these other people, including Hart Botner, that's Ellis from Die Hard. That's a guy who's like, Hans, Bubby, I'm your white knight. You know, Ellis. I mean, completely. You have to sort of squint to recognize him because he doesn't have the beard or mustache or anything. But they're having this party, and you have this sort of geeky type guy with glasses who's being led to this room. And Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to do this, but she's just told to go in a room and say, "Hey, come on in." Think it's just a harmless prank, but she doesn't know. They don't tell her what's really going on. So the guy, strips himself to his undies and he goes into a bed, thinking he's Jamie Lee Curtis, and then he finds out it's a fuck. These are medical students. That's what they're going to college for, most of them. And it's a dead body. So it's actually a dead woman. And of course, he freaks out like any of us would. And then Jamie Lee Curtis sees it. She never knew about it, so she freaks out. But all these other assholes come in and laugh. And so the kid is freaking out. And he's twirling around and caught in these sheets that are hanging from the ceiling. And she's horrified. Jamie Lee Curtis is horrified because she didn't know anything about this. And the other people are laughing. I'm like, wow, that's really fucked up. That's really fucked up. But it's an interesting incentive, so to speak, for what's going to happen. It's it's like, oh shit, that's a horrible prank. Then it takes place sometime later, and it's these people getting ready to graduate. They're having this party on this train, and Jamie Lee Curtis is still friends with them, but at the same time, like Hart Bachner, she still thinks he's an asshole. And one of the things I liked is that the killer gets into different costumes, which is very cool. I like that idea. It's not just one costume, it's a bunch of costumes, and each costume has their own little creepy factor to it, especially this Groucho Marx type of costume. Because at the beginning, you have people going on a train, you have one of the jokesters, dressed up as Groucho Marx, but then you later see him and they think, oh, he's playing another joke, but he's got a fucking sword through him. And of course, we all instantly find out, okay, yes, it's a real sword, and the killer just drops his ass underneath the train. It is not a gory film, but you see enough of the train going over this hat he had and a little bit of his arm, and it's like, okay, this guy is fucked up. And I like that the killer dresses up in different costumes. So you sort of nice way for people to sort of keep off track on where this person's at. You have an instance where you have a guy dressed up in this outfit, sort of snake-like outfit, thinking that this guy is his friend and says, hey, I got some of the good stuff, puts him in his bathroom, and think it's his friend, and the killer grabs him, just smashes his head right across the fucking bathroom glass. And that's what I'm talking about. He takes people's costumes, or he messes with them, and Ben Johnson is the conductor, and Ben Johnson, he does a good job because he just seems like a nice guy. Just seems like a nice guy. He's not, hey, you kids. He's very open. He's very kind-hearted. And there's a magic show on the train. Yes, David Copperfield doing a magic show. So you did see some nice magic. But even he's trying to do magic. He's like, oh, pick a card. And then he's like, not only is your card at the top, but I changed it to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. See, it's a gay, but they're walking away. He's trying to explain, but you get the idea. He's a good guy. He's a kind-hearted guy, and I thought Ben Johnson did a good job in this. And Jamie Lee Curtis, I just think she's very likable. And again, it's interesting to see David Copperfield. But I'm talking about. I thought the killer was interesting in the fact that, for instance, Ben Johnson later on finds that person with this costume dead with blood on the wall, and there's like a bottle in the mask. He's like, oh my god, and he's like, what are we gonna do? Hey, get someone, call someone. Later on, they go back. He's like, where's the blood? And the person in that costume starts waking up. And then a friend comes by and says, oh yeah, it's you. And so you're made to think, oh, it was a practical joke, or at least the Ben Johnson. I thought that was a smart idea of the killer, where everyone's wearing, a lot of people wearing costumes, and the killer pretty much just cleaned up and put himself in the costume. He put himself in the costume and hid the body so that when they come back, they think it was a stupid practical joke. And you get the idea. For instance, right before they even go on the train, they play a joke on the conductor. One of those things where you have a box and then you have a finger in it, and you open you think it's a cut off finger, but it starts moving. So he thinks, oh my god, it's a practical joke. But even then, he goes back, but then he's still thinking about it. It's like, wait a minute. So he's still thinking about it. It's not like he writes it off 100%. So that's what I like about Ben Johnson. He's still thinking about it. And then also, that's what I like about the killer. He's sort of being smart about it. So he tricks them, puts on that costume. And again, the kills are a cutaway. Again, if you're looking for gore, it's not the case. But I like the atmosphere on the train. It's dimly lit and moody. I thought it has a nice atmosphere to it. The music is not the best. I mean, it's definitely no Halloween. It's definitely no Friday the 13th, music-wise. But, it is what it is. Definitely no April Fool's Day, the original. But, so I'm not really a big fan of the music. That's another thing. But I just thought it was interesting that the killer would go into different costumes, and sort of as the film goes on, trying to figure out what to do. And I don't mind the cast. I thought the cast did a fine job. Again, being set on a train, I thought that was a nice touch. I don't want to give everything away, so I don't want to go through point by point on every single thing. But I'm trying to think what else I want to say, what else I want to give away and stuff. One thing I really enjoyed was the ending, because I thought Jamie Lee Curtis got in a really decent struggle with the killer. To be honest, probably the best struggle, well, until Halloween H2O. Because even Halloween 2, she didn't really have much. It was more running away. But before I get to that, you have Hart Botner, freaking out because some of his friends are dead, and he even locks Jamie Lee Curtis in a room. He's like, we're not leaving here. We're going this and that. It's every man for himself. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, wait a minute, our friends are back there. And Jamie Lee Curtis, you really buy into her. You really like her. She's not selfish. She's not thinking of herself. So, it's a very good quality in a human being. I think that's what helps Jamie Lee Curtis be likable in these movies. And what I liked is that even Ben Johnson, he stops the train, but even he knows that it's outside, it's super cold, they're going to freeze to death. So he's like, I don't want to get back on that train either. But we're going to all put you in the same room, and even people are like, yeah, same room as a killer. And pretty much they're all going to be in the same room, and Hart Botner's stupid ass brings Jamie Lee Curtis back into the train and locks him in the room because Hart Botner's being an idiot because he's the asshole of the movie. But he'll get taken care of. And you have a scene where Ben Johnson finds a disembodied head that falls off. Um, let's see, what else was I going to say? And then you think that maybe it's David Copperfield who's the killer. And Jamie Lee Curtis has quite a bit of struggle. Like, she shows that she's smart. She knows how to handle herself. They put her in a room. They think this David Copperfield, so they lock the room where he's at. And she's falling asleep in his room. But then you find out that the guy watching her, he's been stabbed with a fucking sword. And the killer comes in and stabs it, but it's a not really a dummy, sort of a doll, sex doll that someone brought on board. And she comes in, just stabs the guy with a sword and runs away. And it's a nice struggle. He grabs her, he's punching her, ripping her. It rips something from her ear, a piercing from her ear, and she's kicking him and have one of those old school fire extinguisher with the water, spray him in the face, pushing him, locks herself in this sort of steel cage, and he's trying to stab her with like this sort of crowbar type, and he's knocking all the lights out, and she takes one of those things, one of those things that you have pieces of paper, it like sticks up, it's like a little thing with a nail, and you put like your papers, your notes on, so it sticks there. She takes that, stabs it right across the guy's face. Uh, Long story short, you think that she like pushes him off the train, but later on he's still on the train. You find David Copperfield's dead body. He's been stabbed with his soul and swords. You have a nice scene where he sort of goes toe to toe with her, and she says, "Hey, I'm sorry about what happened. I thought Jamie Lee Curtis did a good performance in that scene, And he's like, kiss me, kiss me. And she does, and it reminds him of what happened. And you get an idea that in the dialogue that even before that prank, he was a sick individual, and that beforehand there was talk that he might have killed someone, whether it was an accident or on purpose. So they played a prank on someone who was already sick in the head. And again, it's just Jamie Lee Curtis. She didn't know all the details. She didn't know it all. And he's freaking out, the killer, and Ben Johnson comes with a shovel, smacks the shit out of him, smacks him out the train, and see the body fall away from the train, hit the ground, and go into the river down below. Uh, I know it doesn't seem much. I'm not sure how many people would enjoy this because there's not gore. The music, I'm not really a fan of the score. It's a little bit slow at times. But I thought the concept on the train made it different. I like the atmosphere, the mood, the lighting. I thought I had a lot of good scenes, but the lighting is dark and dimly lit. I thought that fit well for the film. I thought the acting, especially Ben Johnson and Jamie Lee Curtis, are very solid. I really liked the ending, the chase between Jamie Lee Curtis and the killer. I thought it was more satisfying than, say, Prom Night, because Prom Night, I can't remember Jamie Lee Curtis dealing with the killer. I mean, maybe I have to see that film again, but I remember not being that satisfying. And also wondering where the fuck is Leslie Nielsen and this and that. I like the fact that the killer would go into different costumes. It was like use his head, so people would find a dead body, and then he would sneak and put on the costume himself and think that, oh yeah, he was dead drunk, and I thought that was kind of smart of the killer. I mean, you do get like seeing David Copperfield's dead body with the swords in it, or a guy with a sword inside him, or in him, or a head fall over, but it's not a gore fest at all. It's more about suspense, and I thought Roger Spottiswoode did a decent job directing. It was cool to see David Copperfield doing some magic. Again, Ben Johnson I really liked, as well as Jamie Lee Curtis. It's straightforward. It is what it's supposed to be. Is it a classic on the level of Halloween, or for me, My Bloody Valentine, April Fool's Day? No, but I would still say this is a favorite of mine, slasher film wise. If I did a top 10 slasher films, this would be on there. Because I like the train setting, I like the mood atmosphere. Jamie Lee Curtis and Ben Johnson were good. I thought I did a decent job building suspense. I thought the initiative at the beginning with the prank, I thought that was well done, and it was well achieved, better than I think a lot of films have done. I thought the then sort of the struggle at the end was solid. I like Terror Train. I do enjoy Terror Train. It's one of those films that I enjoy, but it's hard to explain it because when you explain it, it doesn't sound like much. But watching it, I get enjoyment out of it. You know, I'm not saying it's the best slasher film ever, but it would be in my top 10. Who knows? Maybe in my top 5. I never made a list, but I would have to. I mean, like, I like Intruder, but Intruder, my problem is the ending. And I think that's why maybe I like this film more than Intruder, because Intruder has some great effects, but the ending kind of shoots and stuff, and at least this has, I think, a solid ending. And I think, for me, the problems I list are minor problems. But like the ending of Intruder, I think is a major problem. But I still really enjoy Intruder. I did a review of Intruder. And it's magnificent makeup effects. But even the lead girl, I like Jamie Lee Curtis more than lead girl. So I think that's why I would put this above Intruder, because Intruder has great makeup effects. But this, I like the characters more. At least Jamie Lee Curtis and Ben Johnson. And I like, the ending is not weak in my opinion, and among other stuff. I just think it's a slasher film that's competent, that's well done, and just don't go in expecting a gore fest at all. Not at all. I just thought it was. I think it's a good one. I'm proud to say I enjoy Terror Train. I definitely want to thank BillBonJovi because this is a wonderful gift. And you know me, I'm a whore for gifts. I am a whore for gifts. You know, and watching stuff like this, I really want to get as many of these Scream Factories as possible. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thank you, BillBonJovi, for this. It was a wonderful gift. It was nice seeing this again. Had a good time with this. I think it's a solid slasher film. It's not a gory slasher film, but I think it's a solid slasher film. But that's me. But either way, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later.